Hi guys. So I I've wanted to do this video for a while. It's just regarding my DNA results through Ancestry DNA. I've saw quite a few of these done on YouTube, and I really found them interesting. Probably like a lot of people, I was really curious to look back at my genetics and to see exactly where my family, come from. Of course, there's only a limited paper trail of your ancestry. You can only trace it back 3 or 4 generations now. Five or six if you're lucky, possibly, maybe a bit further. But it's really, it's really hard to really ascertain exactly what part of the world you're from, apart from word of mouth and rumor. So I found this really interesting. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Kieran McKeown, and yes, if you're having a stab in the dark, that is an Irish name, and my ancestry is as such, as far as I knew. My mother is English. Most of her family were from the north of England. There were some rumours that there was some Irish genetics on my grandfather's family. That's what we were told at the time. And on my father's side, obviously, McKeown, it's a an Irish name from Ulster. Basically, it's from the region of Ulster, not necessarily Northern Ireland. I think it's kind of found all around Ulster. And originally McKeown is a Anglo-Norman name. So I think they came to Ireland in the 12th, 13th century. So I was really curious to see if the kind of genetics showed a link to the north of Ireland. But like I said, mum's side is from the north of England, and possibly we were told possibly Ireland. And anyway, so I had the results after waiting for a few weeks, and it came back with sort of relatively along the lines of what we had been told through rumor, basically. So it did show a degree of accuracy. So for the test, I just have a double check just to confirm. I I got 47% British, obviously through mum's side. 44% Irish through dad's side, and there were a few little bits and bobs. I had 4% Scandinavian. No, sorry, 4% Finnish and Russian. 2% Scandinavian, and I believe there was 2% Ashkenazi Jew, which was totally shocking to me, and 1% Southern Europe, which I think is roughly defined as Italy and Greece. So pretty much the genetics did suggest that as per mum and dad, I was pretty much half Celtic and half Anglo-Saxon. Which I found really interesting. Obviously, you kind of look at other people, and their results are really, really varied. Mine weren't so much. Obviously, my ancestors didn't get out of their regions that much. They must have stayed relatively in the north of Ireland and in the maybe Anglo-Saxon speaking Lower Scotland and Northern England. Um, did find it really interesting that my British genetics appeared to link itself to Scotland and Ulster. Clearly, that was from my grandfather's side. He did say that his mum was Irish, although he never really, you know, got too deep into it. But I mean, I traced it back, and it appeared that her family were actually born in Birmingham, much like myself. But I mean, he must have known something. It does appear that there is a link in Ulster on mum's side with with British genetics. I mean, I can only really link that to the plantation of Ulster. If people know the history. There were a lot of people that moved to Northern Ireland from Scotland and Northern England. So I'm assuming. I mean, I know that quite a lot of Scots-Irish blood or Ulster Scots blood is a mixture of Scots and Scots Celtic and English Anglo Saxon. So the that identity is slightly mixed in that way. So I mean, it looks as though I'm in many ways a son of Ulster, in so much as I am part British Ulster and obviously on dad's side, sort of native Irish from Ulster as well. Did suggest on dad's side that there were a link to Scotland. I mean, of course, the links between Ulster and Scotland go way back. I mean, there was a sort of mass immigration from Northern Ireland into Scotland, and the kingdom was Dalrotha, sorry. So there's a lot of mixed blood, and of course, Gaelic in Scotland originated from Ireland, from Irish Gaelic. So there's a huge link between Northern Ireland and Scotland. Anyway, so having seen my results, we decided to get my father tested, and his results came in today, strangely enough, which were also extremely interesting. My dad was 100% convinced. I mean, he's an Irish Catholic. He was extremely he was convinced that basically he was going to be Captain Irish and be super Irish and not have much British genetics. I have to be honest, I did not believe it. There's quite a mix in Northern Ireland of genetics. I know there's a lot of Anglo Saxon blood up there. I just could not see that he would be very Irish. Anyway, I had the test done, and he was right. He was right, though. I mean, his genetics just showed a link between Ireland and Scotland, and he did have a little bit of British in there. But I'll just tell you exactly what he got. I think he had 85% Irish. They say Irish, they mean Celtic blood, so Welsh, Scottish, and Irish. But he had 85%, and it said strong links to Ulster and Scotland. I mean, as I said earlier, that's easily explainable. Through the different waves of immigration and marriage and that existed between the west coast of Ireland and Northern Ireland for centuries before the plantation. So that was not a shock. So obviously, so he had 85% Irish. He had 5% Scandinavian. I think there have been some intrusions from the Vikings into a lot of the British Isles. So that had obviously affected his genetics. Then there was 4% Finnish, a little bit higher than mine. And there was 3% 3% British and 1% Central European. No, Central Asian, which was a bit of a shock. It's obviously quite far back, a bit of a strange one that. But obviously, I mean, the big one for my dad was the fact that he was only 3% British, which he was high fiving me, laughing. He was loving it. I think he was always secretly worried that he'd be extremely British, but it's obviously just a trace region for him, which is extremely interesting. For a Roman Catholic from Northern Ireland, so there's clearly a division there. I honestly thought he would be a bit more mixed up and possibly a lot more British, Anglo Saxon blood in there. I think I saw recently that the average Northern Irish person has something like 41% British blood. I mean, of course, I'm sure that would be slightly different across the ethnic divide there. But so yeah, he was pretty Irish, which was interesting. And obviously, Mum somehow has also got links to Ulster and Scotland, but through the British side. So I found it really interesting. So, do you think I look like a Northern Irish face? I don't know, but I mean, it looks as though that might well be the case. But excuse the accent. But yeah, really interesting, guys. Look, I mean, I thought this would be interesting for people that have family in Northern Ireland, and even Scotland. I mean, there's not that many DNA videos out there, about people from those regions. So, let me know about your genetics if you're from that region. What mix are you? Are you Protestant? Are you Catholic? What do your genetics say? So just let me know. Really interesting, guys. So if you want to tell me